All right, so last time we dove deep into the biology of aging, right? We talked about all the changes happening inside the body. Well, now we're going to see how all of that directly impacts one of the most important parts of health, nutrition. And we're not talking about just general eat your veggies advice. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, the clinical reality of how nutritional needs fundamentally change as we get older. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with what I call aging's nutritional paradox. Then we'll totally rethink macronutrients, especially protein. After that, we'll tackle the very real and sneaky danger of dehydration. Then we'll zero in on 5 absolutely essential nutrients. And finally, we'll pull it all together with what's really the gold standard diet for this population. The big idea you're going to see over and over is this kind of backward relationship. As the body's need for calories goes down, the need for specific, high-quality nutrients actually goes up. It's a real puzzle.
And this paradox, this is really the heart of geriatric nutrition. To get why older adults need more nutrients, even though they're burning fewer calories, we've got to start with why their energy needs drop in the first place. So just take a look at this comparison. An older body's total energy expenditure, that's TE, goes down for a couple of big reasons. Yeah, sure, there's often less physical activity. But here's the real kicker. Their basal metabolic rate, or BMR, actually drops. That's the energy the body's burning just to stay alive. Breathing, circulation, the basics. And the main thing driving that drop, it's the loss of lean muscle. Now, this age-related muscle loss, it actually has a name, sarcopenia. And you can think of it as a direct hit to the body's metabolic engine. It's caused by a mix of things, less activity, not enough protein, and some key hormone changes. And since muscle is way more metabolically active than fat, when you lose it, it's like turning down the thermostat on the body's furnace 24/7. And just to make things a little more complicated, we have to factor in conditions like hypothyroidism. It becomes a lot more common as people get older, and it directly puts the brakes on the metabolism even more. In fact, it's now seen as a major contributor to all-cause mortality, because it can mess with everything from your heart to your brain. So we're really dealing with a metabolic slowdown coming from multiple angles. Okay, so with this metabolic slowdown happening, what do we do about it? How do we adjust our macronutrient advice? Well, the key is to shift the focus to getting nutrient-packed calories and, this is a big one, making sure protein intake is high enough to fight back against those changes.
First up, let's talk calories. You can see the average needs drop pretty dramatically, down to about 2,000 calories for men and only 1,600 for women. When you're working with a calorie budget that tight, every single bite counts. There is just zero room for empty calories from things like junk food and sugary drinks. And this right here, this is one of the most important updates in geriatric nutrition. For years, the standard advice was 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for everybody, but we now know that's just not enough to fight sarcopenia. The clinical reality is that older adults actually need more protein. Experts in the field are now pushing for 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, specifically to hang on to that precious metabolically active muscle.
But, knowing the target and actually hitting it are two totally different things. You see, protein malnutrition is this kind of silent epidemic, and it's often driven by these very real-world problems. Things like being isolated, not having enough money for good food, or just not being physically able to cook anymore. Tackling this means we have to think beyond just giving advice. Okay, next up, we've got to talk about a real silent killer in the older adult population, dehydration. It's one of the top reasons they end up in the hospital, and the crazy thing is, it's almost completely preventable if we just understand what's really going on. And this is the absolute key takeaway. It's so easy to just assume, oh, they just forgot to drink water. But that's almost never the full story. What's actually happening is a system-wide, age-related breakdown of the body's natural alert system for thirst.
Let me walk you through it. It all starts up in the brain. The hypothalamus, which is kind of like the body's thirst control center, it just gets less sensitive. So the brain literally doesn't send out the "I'm thirsty" signal, even when the body desperately needs water. At the same time, the kidneys start to lose their ability to conserve water. And then you've got this behavioral piece on top of it all. A fear of incontinence makes a lot of older adults deliberately drink less. It's a perfect storm.
So the bottom line is, you just can't rely on an older person's sense of thirst. It's not a reliable indicator anymore. The clinical solution has to be proactive, not reactive. In any kind of care setting, you need a fluid schedule. That means offering small amounts of fluids every hour or two throughout the day, whether they say they're thirsty or not. So since we're working with fewer total calories, this idea of nutrient density becomes absolutely critical. We have to make every calorie work harder. We've got to pack in all the vitamins and minerals that the body gets worse at absorbing or making on its own as it ages. Let's focus on what I call the big five. Let's break this down. First up, vitamin D. The challenge is the skin doesn't make it from sunlight as well, and the kidneys aren't as good at converting it. So the solution? Supplementation is pretty much a must for almost everyone. Then there's B12. Absorption tanks because of less stomach acid, which means we have to lean on fortified foods or supplements. For calcium, it's also about poor absorption, so the best bet is to focus on getting it from food, like dairy and leafy greens. And then you've got this really important pair, sodium and potassium. Too much sodium drives up blood pressure, so we need to cut it back. At the same time, most people don't get enough potassium, which actually works like an antidote to sodium. Okay, so we've laid out all these different challenges: the calorie paradox, the need for more protein, the dehydration risk, the big five nutrients. But is there one single diet that can tackle all of them at once? A unifying approach? Well, the answer is yes. And it's one that's been proven time and time again in clinical settings. And it's called the DASH diet. That stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's really considered the clinical gold standard for older adults because it was specifically designed to go after cardiovascular health, which is, of course, one of the biggest health threats for this age group. And just look at what it does. It's high in potassium and low in sodium. That's exactly what we just talked about for blood pressure. It's also packed with fiber and emphasizes fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. See how it all connects? This is the definition of a nutrient-dense diet, which is perfect for a lower calorie budget. It really ties everything we've discussed together beautifully. Which leaves us with a final, really critical question to think about. As we get ready to move on and talk about the common health concerns of older adults, things like heart disease and cognitive decline, I want you to keep this in the back of your mind. If good nutrition is one of our best lines of defense, how many of these so-called age-related diseases are actually just nutritional problems in disguise?